Yo, what up, YouTube? What up, what up, what up? It's Saint Nouan. Back at it again. And I gotta tell you, man, I am bored to death. I am bored in this house. Time for me passes, it feels irregularly. It feels like there is a lot of points in which there is time dilation. You understand what I'm saying? And these would seem to be fourth dimensional aspects and qualities in which the changing of time or the inconsistency of time would be speculatively respected of the spirit of an individual and how they pass through time. The converging of dimensions, possibly when certain doors are open during the day at these points in time, which morning being a pivotal time, of course. And this is only speculatively, it's not even theory. I presume that how you interact with those points in times, that times may dilate. And I feel that boredom is an interesting sensation for individuals to have, despite all the things that we have. And you know, Bill Burr does an excellent comic set in which he outlines, you know, how millennials, well, he doesn't say millennials directly, but he just says young kids, like how in the world do they ever get bored? You know, we have video games, we have all these things that, you know, I definitely didn't have when I was growing up. And the amount of things that an individual can do, you know, would seem virtually endless for an individual to have the sensation of feeling bored, and to entertain the feeling of being bored against their will, even though they could literally engage in any activity and would no longer exactly be bored. We generally, during these points in time, concentrate and lend our mind and consciousness to the boredom, do we not? And isn't it interesting how we examine this boredom and how we notice it? And in such a sense, we're blind to the fact that we're experiencing ourselves moving at a quicker velocity in our own dimension in which time would dilate. And these occurrences happen in the mind because time is measured equitably. However, individuals who experience that time don't experience it exactly the same, though scientifically they would. So therefore, many faculties begin with the mind, and it's interesting that when individuals feel bored, they pay attention against their will to the boredom, and more so when offered things to do, they choose to be bored without wanting to be. And this is a nuance of expressions that we experience that maybe suggests that we're in the spirit, and we feel at terms with our limitations and vulnerabilities in the flesh. And we have a moment in which we're not so existential. And the existential things derive no interest, in which we sit and meditate upon how we feel as an oversight. Is boredom not a spiritual experience? And how much do we hate it? Something as simple as boredom can be torture. So these are the things that I kind of think about during the course of the day. And I think I'm in a fourth dimensional place. And I think when people pass through times, I have to say, I do find pedophilia to be an odd phenomenon. I don't exactly find it to be natural or normal, even though in history, these things were quite common. I don't believe that everything on earth is exactly human. And I believe individuals that end up in certain places in society, like certain parties and and what have you, that turn out to be freakniks against secret individuals, have all sorts of races, including things like pixies, vampires that are old in age, that are in younger bodies. And I do believe that there are individuals, it would seem, I witnessed them shape shift from an older age to a younger age, from a senior citizen to a teenager. in one space and time. And this would make time suggestive depending on how you pass it. And when people die, they pass away. And every moment of your life is passing. And the moment you experience it, it is gone and buried. Given the fact, if you have reflection and you recognize patterns and you start to obtain a memory, then you become conscious, and this is understanding. Everything else is knowledge of. What boredom can be understood unless one experiences it. And how do we share the commonality of how it feels? Even though the intensity of its feeling is different between the both of us, considering how we think, there's a common ground in understanding. Of things that we hate, though boredom could not exist exactly, could it? But we talk about it in the third dimension. And I think that individuals that end up in these certain parties experience certain relations with individuals in younger bodies. I don't think that these individuals in younger bodies are children, and not all children have the same level of intelligence as their peer group. So things get real intricate when you start speaking of this thing pertaining to age and perception. Individuals start feeling that they can't see the balance between how they're traveling. And then they start interacting in different societies that look the same and end up caught up. Living in this reality which appears to be fluid, much like intelligence, faculties of the brain. The firmament of my skull under the trial of fire, does it not turn to glass? And did not God say the firmament is as a molten glass? And is not the trial by fire? And are we not refined into gold, silver, and diamonds? Think about it. What good is knowledge if you die with it? It never existed, and neither did your memory, because you didn't share something. Charity is the first line of defense for peace. What are we fighting for? People need to meditate a little bit more on things and reflect a little bit more on their life. Everybody has witnessed miracles, but they don't share. Sometimes in my isolation, one of the things I think about that I like is sharing. Remember the kids back in the day when you went to school, it was show and tell. And everybody loved to share something interesting. Fridays was one of the greatest days for that. If you did well, sometimes you got a golden sticker. People have come across many interesting things. One of the greatest resources, if not the greatest, out of this kingdom. And yet we don't communicate because our communication has been replaced with technology. The more advanced we get, the more inhumane we get. And it's this by account of our knowledge, and our knowledge being in particular, and everybody seeing a different perspective. If we were in a circle around the moon, the craters would be placed in different places for each of us, and we can't agree because we all think that we can see the same thing. So many assumptions at a base level. And then you have communications that happen in between that. Most of them spiritual warfare, having brief exchanges. We remove the beast from the claws and we put it in the brain. And now we have knowledge to rip and tear others apart. And we roam about as a predator. You could call us Leviathan because knowledge puffeth up. And we breathe fire to demolish the village people because we keep the intricacies and the truth of his details in secret while they walk around blind. Not even willing to share our miracles. It's like we replace God. Thinking we know something without ourselves. So, higher conscious situations would be that since I like show and tell, and if I was going to show and tell within the individuals, meaning I had resources or something to share, to set out to do such a thing, would it not be selfish if my intentions are in there to have some camaraderie? And even though camaraderie is a good thing, is it not goodwill hunting? And is hunting still the same? And are my intentions purely good? And therefore, will I not reflect what I put out? Meaning ulterior motives, even in the slightest, whether they be good or bad. These are things that are spiritual, that affect your communications. The things you put out into the universe. How you interact with the omniscience of God. And karma is therefore what you're blessed with, and you're blessed with the best, though you have knowledge, so it sucks. Many things you can't enjoy, like your memories, but you got a new car. This is the way of the world. Stumbling, going to and fro, putting so many things on their plate that they can't focus on any one thing at all, except the stress that those things bring. And the vanity of having them. For what cause do we travel but to get to work and do slavery? And pay our taxes to the boss. These are the things that I consider. What are my qualities of sharing if I enjoy sharing? What is the attachment? And do I have an addiction to camaraderie? And can I have it without any necessities added to it, such as utilizing a faction of sharing with the intentions of camaraderie? You see, these intentions turn into expectations, whether they're good or bad. And people come under false pretenses when they meet each other. And we find Lucifer all the time, even no matter how quaint it is. Everybody sees the light, it's just many don't trust it. Every secret you hide is deep inside of a collective. And this collective consciousness that we would call God does not upbraid wisdom. So, considering if you're in the right spirit, There is nothing hidden, down to your intentions. When one is in the right spirit, they're in the spirit of the shepherd. And when you're in the spirit of the shepherd, then you're unbiased. There's no motives or incentives for what you see, you observe. There is no need for judgments, only a light, in which how someone responds tells the entire story when you call it out. Striking them down with the word of your voice. And in such a matter in which he is light and there is no darkness and he is unbiased. This day star people abhor when morning comes, when they do business at night. And they hide amongst the trees in the day. They put on a fake expression and they say hi, knowing that they're going through the same shit that you are. They think they are alone. Society has turned cold for fear. What affections there are used for professions now. If I was to know God, I would know him by his consistency of most. And society has become inconsistent from the one I came from in the 90s. This is why I think there are alternate realities and outcomes, considering the dash in between two dates. Your life. Every individual, to a degree, time travels, it would seem. But it's not the apple of your eye, love. Of course. And God is love. But if that should be misappropriated, you can see the confusion that it could cause. If the apple of your eye is love, why would you fall in it? Are you not struck by Cupid's arrow? Between two desires in your heart? Individuals can even like something that they don't love. And individuals can love something that they don't like. And these are the quantum dynamics of spirituality. What an individual needs is somehow pit against what an individual wants. Consider the mind in this type of dissonance if the thoughts aren't ordered and people scurry around as gnats without any distinctive paths, making a lot of movements but doing very little. Scatterbrained at best often. Concerns over whether they're seen or not. Concerns over what they're seen as. Outside of this vanity, what else do people really think about in this world? Things they could look down on. Very few talk about things they're inspired by. Very few share things they can learn from, and people find this to be corny, but without these conversations, what conversations are they except people being fresh to death? Looks like somebody killed the game. Now everybody eats their bread in silence, and they don't even eat at the same times. Even when they sit together. something about the coming days of age from a baby. When he grows old, he grows apart often from his parents. And does this happen on account of knowledge? Or does this happen on account of reputation? And what disagreements do they have between them? Think about it. The old man is the new man, and the new man is the old one. Pertaining to Scripture, being built up with knowledge by a teenager, they know everything. They look at their parents as peers when they communicate. And they think to themselves that they just got old when wisdom is talking. And wisdom knows what the former man has done. So when your kid comes in after curfew, you can explain exactly the mistakes they made, you have made before. And they think they're so different, even though their personality is not the same. In such a manner, this ghost-like heredity, pertaining to attributes connected to DNA information. Thoughts passed down like an heirloom. What are your habits? Are they healthy? What type of substance do you think about? I put these out as exercises because your mind is most important. You see, to get spiritual results by doing physical things, I only found in knowledge and tradition, which negates will of mind. The most important part, I would assume, of witchcraft would be intention. And if you place that intention on physical things to get spiritual results, see that cognitive dissonance. And then I know spiritual law also. The practitioner of the witchcraft isn't more important than the work. They're just a symptom of a process. Another machine I could look at and I could clock with the holidays. I think bullets of a sniper work much faster. And I think considering knowing how your mind works is faster than bullets, of course. Only by knowledge and where one places their intentions into existential things in which they assume are reflections and reputations of oneself, then the work that they work is them working on themselves, because they're Satanists and Luciferians. Though they think they're exacting change on the world, which you know, you must be the change you want to see. The spiritual law is stronger because without spiritual law, there can't be lawlessness. The measurements of man didn't come before space. So therefore, the study of knowledge can never supersede the wisdom that it takes from. Consider the moon and how it wields the light of the sun at night. This light is like the ghost of God. Though it can't be seen, it can be presumed. Oftentimes with Christian people want to know what's so different. We're almost normal. the reflection of our lives in different interests, in different lives. And what we bring is like oil to an engine in which the world will have friction without us. And then we are losing our birth war, which is spiritual, pertaining to babies in the earth. And when the voice of reason is drowned out, then you have an engine with no oil or not enough, and things break down. And we think it boils down to work. It does not. And your work can't save this shit. That's the truth. You've neglected your mind and placed your power in existential things. Things outside of God where your core essence is. Practicing and knowing God in a different way. And the delusion of your intentions and your will breaks down based upon your knowledge of expecting things. When you have the Spirit of God and they manifest, it manifests according to your knowledge, which is seducing you down a path which you can't see. And you've been traveling in this way for quite some time, then you come up with ulterior motives to a child of God, and they can tell the minute they see you. You're an individual like these other individuals. I've seen you before. And I could clock your patterns and your works like the days of the week. They come at the same time every year. And you like a machine. Set within your knowledge and its cycles. Earth incarnate. In a world where you only see reflections of yourself. Amongst the people that have a promise of God made in His image. God is unbiased. If I had protection, you would have the same protection I have. But you negate your insurance. Thinking in your short days, even if you lived a millennia, you're going to figure out how to deal with things better than the protection you have. And that's the difference between our psychologies. I'm really playing. But knowing the mind pertaining to how an individual operates and their beliefs just alone will supersede any witchcraft that there is. Think about it. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. I know you're blind on sight based upon the fact that you don't acknowledge the core essence inside of yourself. Though you know many things, and as many things as you know stretches out your mind like a plate. And between those things, unless you are doing those things, the connotations of your script and how you communicate is the same. And you on autopilot. Our conversations are like when I pull up to Burger King, have it your way, and they ask me my order and then have a script after that. Like, do you want fries with that or a large shake? I get it all the time. I don't know why they hit on me in the fast food line with these type of auto scripts. Would you like fries with that or a large shake? That ain't what I asked for. You know what I'm saying? That's how they hit on me. When I pull up to the fast food, they hit on me like this. Yo, you want a large fry or possibly a large shake with that? That's how they hit it. That's how they hit on me. I'm like, holy shit. I think it's coming on a little strong. Coming on a little strong to a nigga. Want me to come out of my pocket for some extra dollars. Man, listen, I just wanted to eat some food. I don't have a girlfriend. Wait a minute, many niggas pay. Ambidextrous, agile, Spider-Man. Linking up your mind and its neurons. Making chandeliers with its webbings. Coming off the top of my head like, I just splattered everywhere. See where I'm coming from? Jackson and Pollock. I just express many things. These things come with meditations. The I speak of is the I that you have. You call him Ray. I suppose. I don't know the mystery school type of shit. I know Christ. I would assume who you call Ray is the same of who I think he is. That's what I would assume. But it kind of drives me crazy when people give me the one eye, because it's like, how do you know to do that? Because I'm definitely not a Mason. I don't get it. Am I supposed to like cover up one of my eyes back? Or maybe it's symbolic of the first eye? Or maybe they could see some type of chakras or some shit? I don't really know. Wouldn't you think that was odd? If you didn't fucking know what was going on in society, people kept every so often would cover up one of their eyes or some shit. You would. And I'm just giving you a relative to this type of phenomenon that I experienced, in which it was seen that I'm naked, and I'm like, so what? If I'm a loser, you must not have never seen one before. There's no reason I should garner any attention whatsoever. This neighborhood is weird. But I'm saying there is no freedom. Okay? Basically, I'm saying there is no freedom unless one is free in the mind. To be naked and vulnerable is superhuman. To be destitute at this point would be subjective for the individual that is free in mind. The only things you would be without are the things you don't want. So if you don't have certain things, then you know those who do have it don't have anything. And yet their blindness, they would not know that they are missing. Their mind is stretched out like a plate. Their routines and patterns become their identity. Between that, asking them about themselves, they never thought about it much, and they're up in age. Meaning, if you ask them who they were, simple question, it seems. Yep, we go through flashcards to go to interviews. Gotta be tailored, just like that Facebook, even in real life, and we're just like the Sims, only worse. Something to think about. Individuals are not free in their mind. They're in bondage according to their knowledge. And they do things at certain places at certain times as routines. Anybody who could pick up patterns. Peter Piper picked a pickled pepper. We could spot him like a cheetah. Moving through the tall grass looking plain. No sign of trouble. You understand? One has to be free in their mind. In such a manner, a house with pictures and a television has amenities that a jail cell doesn't have. But in both places, a mind is needed, which supersedes any form of entertainment in which an individual could get bored. So, lest one is free in mind and can be entertained in mind and know themselves to have a backing in which there's resistance for substance to be measured, in which they can hold that weight tangibly in the spirit of their psychology to share what they learn from that experience to create connections that are real. Then what's the point? Your life is negated for moment to moment expressions that are a la carte, that comes from the deep state. You on autopilot and everything you say is the same as everyone else. There is a routine and a training book on how to train people like dogs, and nobody notices that you go to human resources for a job. What has improved since deep state if you have to suck and fuck your way to the top? And that's different. That's just for the opportunity for that position that you then also have to be better than good at. And all the compromises that stretch you apart. And your practices that are like a calendar. Bestial nature in cognitive dissonance. You become an animal. In the wilderness where you fit in. And I, the loser, stand out. Isn't it interesting the judgments you tell me? Are things that I know, but not of myself. You tell me so much at a first impression. Individuals are looking for signs and connotating them with heaven, while their mind is in anxiety to find it. Internally existential. No one's home in the body. These are the things you cannot learn in school. The brain is a calculator, and I know how to use one. I just don't. And I am saying that there are individuals that know how to manipulate, and I think it's important for individuals to reflect on their lives and know themselves. And it's good to share and have conversations in which information can be passed from one to the other, because self-expression is a slippery slope here, and people didn't notice. And when I state the over obvious, they think I have some type of superpowers or telepathy. How do I tell someone who could see they are blind? We all have our problems. If you offer help, you might get a dash across the eye. So I just leave shit alone. Freedom is presumed to be chaos, and when people hear me, they think that it's chaos. And my family thought that they knew me, but I'm wild like Miles Davis. They never knew that. I stuck to my reflections as they were until I had to cry out. And freedom being presumed as chaos, order is being presumed as militant. And as chaotic as I seem, there's order in my thoughts. And that is my freedom in what you presume as chaos. And your order is routine and everything else is chaotic. You believe your work keeps you sane. That's because everything else in your life fell apart based on where you placed your intention. And your intention was placed in the works, and therefore those works manifest based on God, the same God that I got. Your faith was just placed in something existential. And that becomes important, more important than yourself. And according to your knowledge, it comes at a price. And when it comes at a price, the rest of your life falls apart. And everything falls away except for that practice. These addictions hit worse than drugs. But then people need drugs for them. And sex also. How convenient all the things needed were things that you wanted with your practice and your guides. Of what you obtained, what did it cost? Did you ascend in this world like Thanos? Did you have to make a sacrifice of the one that you loved? Your time, your space, or any of them gems in that gauntlet? For everything obtained, what did you lose to keep that cool persona and not be stoked when, as you would be if you were a kid and reached your dream? Order is presumed to be militant. But you can see that this order, in which this order I have freedom. How does this change your perception? Freedom being presumed chaos. It can be. But just because one is granted freedom, do they exercise chaos? Or do they show forth their freedom? You see, these things would be two different things. One would constitute rebellion. The other would constitute being. The other would constitute, rebellion would constitute being based upon the principle of not being what you're against. Therefore, no one has to be against no one. You can just be. But in order to get there, you have to build yourself. Peace and blessings be with you all. I'm out. So pertaining to man, the beast, pertaining to the flesh, as your brain is comprised of gray matter. And why does that matter gray? It pertains to the spiritual death, I suppose, that man exhibited by taking of the low-hanging fruit from the tree of knowledge, which separated his conscience from the knowledge that he had. And this bias, even though God created all things that were good, and in such self-consciousness and self-knowledge pertaining to his desires and not his consciousness, man became as a beast. His brain is as flesh, and his thoughts are as birds in the heavens, spiritual, unseen but experienced. And his head wound, pertaining to the thorns, pertains to the type of knowledge that this individual carries. And Jesus came with a promise, and he healed the beast and his head wound and the government of his mind, which is represented as Rome, in which the existential man is oppressed and crucified bit by bit, with compromises, being born peculiar, then fitting into a mold. Not knowing himself, our ways are as a dog that is chasing his tail. And this is like the rotation of the earth. Man being comprised of carbonite. The firmament like his skull. And this, I suppose, will represent the two trees pertaining to the desires of man, according to his knowledge of what he deems to be good and what he deems to be evil, making himself the judge and subjected to his conscience. And oftentimes convicted by his convictions if one is not careful. Dividing his dream, dividing his mind, in which out of his heart are these reflections of things according to his knowledge, which he thinks he desires. And the bottomless pit is the individual. If they don't know themselves, then they go about the earth according to their impulses. And this is no different than a zombie or a beast. The individual having a relationship with God and having understanding of Scripture comprises the core essence of a being, the soul of an individual, bringing together the mind, that an individual is harmonious with his thoughts and his ways, which go according to life. Not being biased, but being free and liberated. But he does have these pillars of understanding and ways of life of how to live, which comes together with the renewal of the mind, with understanding of Scripture. And the way he thinks and the way he decides, as he is sanctified, reconstructs his circumstances and his dream, being guided according to the light, which is wisdom. So, in such a manner, a man is no different than an angel, considering if he knows himself which angel he is. One can even have good intentions. There's a lot of knowledge and a lot of perspectives. But are these perspectives based on similarities or differences? Which comes out of our hearts and spills into the streets, creating our world and our government. Things we collectively share and believe, like the law of the land, and then the ways of our mind, pertaining to which fruit we eat from, considering our heart, good fruit or evil fruit. Such in the matter that man cannot reach God according to knowledge, even knowing all of the Bible and all of the mysteries, but by faith alone, lest self gets involved with God and him being unbiased. And self usually constitutes knowledge, evil knowledge, and death. Self pertains to impulses. Peace and blessings be with you all. I'm out. Love others as you love yourself.